Well, awesome, you two. Well, welcome back to this little bi-weekly. I'm going to rebrand it. I think it's just going to be
just this crew.
The Muppets, Roya and Steven, Sean and Matt chat.
Yeah,
We got our own little crew.
so far.
Bringing the dancing chickens.
Yeah.
But I think today, again, I think today, just because there's a little less, I think maybe in terms of actionable things for us to give you, I think that, next week we have Mobility Week, which is going to be really fun.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we could talk a little bit about that. But I think that now you two have been on this enough that I would be very pleased if this conversation was just led more by questions that you guys have, which is the intent. But yeah, I think after last chat, just to recap, I know we talked about coming in with kind of an intention, something that you want to work on. I think definitely, and I'll give you guys credit whether that happened or not, I've definitely seen that slight adjustment be made, specifically today, with some of the snatch stuff, which was awesome. And then also just with this kind of really cool landmark that we had of solidifying like that 5 rep max, which both of you PR'd in, which was pretty cool. Never obviously the thing we chased, but a really cool happenstance to getting more into the education and form. So, I think we have a lot to reflect on in terms of the 5 rep max, some of the snatch stuff, and then looking forward to mobility. So if that inspires any queries from you, then we would love to hear them.
Queries. Yeah, well, one thing we talked about the last time we did this was about this kind of mini workout, like hour on the hour kind of workouts.
Yeah.
Grease the groove stuff.
Yeah.
So, I would love to start like incorporating that into my sort of weekly routine.
Yeah.
So if we just like touch on that again, I mean, that's something that's really
what I think would be helpful is I know you, because you've done Grease the Groove.
Yeah, I can explain the system a little bit.
I did Grease the Groove too. So maybe what we can do is, Matt, you want to talk to the technicality, and then I can just share some personal insight of how I used it that might inspire some inspiration of what you might want to attach the tool to.
Yeah. So broadly, the idea behind Grease the Groove is exactly as you said, Steven, is just sort of somehow throughout the day, you just punch out a bunch of reps. And rather than it being, hey, in an isolated hour-long workout, it's sort of like, hey, every hour on the hour or every time you get up from the couch or whatever, you hit some exercise or a couple of exercises. And, like if you have a weight at home, you can put that around, you can grab that. You can obviously do body weight things. A good way I heard about using Grease the Groove is if you're in a cycle, let's say obviously doing overhead presses and squats, we're not doing horizontal pressing, horizontal rows, or a ton of hinge work. Obviously kettlebells, you're doing some hinges there, but you have the horizontal press and pull pattern that we're not touching on basically this whole cycle. So like one way to use it right now in conjunction with the overhead press and the squat is like push-ups. That's your horizontal press. You don't need any equipment.
Yeah.
Just drop on the floor and punch out 5 to 10 and do that every hour on the hour. And if you do that 1 or 2 days a week, really, like on
max,
the days you're not training. Yeah. Max. Like you don't want to, like, once you hit your hour workout, that's the same volume, if you will, in that hour,
right?
Versus doing it over the course of a day,
right? And
I think the big thing that is important about Grease the Groove is that all of the reps you do are pristine, and that's the whole point, right? Like,
technically perfect.
Yeah, like by the end of, like, you could do it with snatching, right? But like at the end of all the snatch work that we did today, form's starting to degrade a little bit. You're getting fatigued. Like they're not going to be perfect every time. Hard to keep your wits about you, all that stuff. But if you do 10 push-ups at 11 o'clock, you do another 10 at 12, another 10 at 1, you can make those perfect. Yeah. And that's really the point, is that you get great skill practice and you stack up a bunch of volume over time. Yeah. So that's sort of the system. That's sort of the idea.
And just to add to that, so an example of that, because I think that'll help kind of put framework. One move that I really wanted to target, I think it was 2 years ago, it doesn't really matter, but was my handstand push-up, which again is kind of a silly thing that I'm probably never going to dedicate a full hour to doing a workout of, for 2 reasons. One, like I don't think that I would have the capacity to do that intense of volume within an hour. That would really mess me up. And 2, it was a skill that I felt I needed technical improvement in and strength improvement in. So basically just the idea of taking the intensity of time out of it, I could over a longer period of time accumulate my way to something that was somewhat unfeasible in a shorter amount of time. So what I would do I don't know if you guys ever saw me do this. It was pretty goofy, but you know what are you if not goofy? Was at the end of a coaching session, we used to be in a system where we'd have like this, like lay down on your back, close your eyes, turn the lights off type of thing. And when everybody had laid down, turn the lights off, close their eyes, I would go over to the back wall and do 3 handstand push-ups. And I would just do that every hour on the hour for about 5 hours. So I had accumulated like 15 total reps of it. So that's an example of kind of the way that I utilized it. And what I found was by the end of doing that for about a month, all of a sudden, instead of 3, I could do 5. And then I could start to really incorporate them in a more productive sense in the intensity that I wanted to.
I think just one bit to that's great about the idea of the handstand push-up is that if you were to do that in a workout, you're maybe going to be able to do 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 sets of maybe 1s or 2s, just a handstand push-up as an example.
Yeah.
Like
you got 15.
You're not going to be able to get a lot of volume in
right.
an hour-long workout because that's just super hard.
Yeah.
But you can get 30 in over the course of a day because you're not really under any of that fatigue problem. And that, like, I used Grease the Groove for pistol squats, and that was how I used that because, like, I could do a couple of those and then I'm pretty toast. But I could do 2 and then walk away for a while and then do another 2, and I can then stack up a lot more volume by basically spreading my workout throughout the whole day.
And the power of it, I think, really at the heart of why it is effective is the time allows you adequate time, 1, to recover, but 2, to have enough wherewithal to understand what you're putting into the movement. And I think those are the 2 things that, irregardless of what move you choose, those are the 2 things: is give yourself enough time to be so well rested that it feels easy again or simple. And then also have the idea that if I don't get it the first hour, I have a whole another hour and then I can try it again and have another crack at it where I'm super well rested. So, that's a good example. I think, just for me personally, sorry, a car is exploding outside, is the idea of I really like, to Matt's point, contrasting that with what we're doing so that you have that other angle of performance, and also finding something that is, for me, I really like the idea of body weight just because no matter where I'm at, it's accessible to me. And even the pistol squat has variations of that. Or again, to Matt's point, something super light. Like you don't really want to be 1 rep maxing every hour on the hour.
Yeah, that's don't load up a 500-pound deadlift and try to do that cold.
No. And to the point of, I think what you guys cracked today was when I drop the overall load, where does that give me an area of opportunity to be way more technically proficient with the skill? Which that is the base of the pyramid. That's what most of your training work should be. And then you have those fun moments of the peak, the kind of 1%. Triggered myself with that. The kind of top end where, again, you just kind of, have those big performance push days on a rarer occasion, like we do, where it's like it culminates in a cycle of 3 weeks. Yeah. So all that being said, I think this is kind of fun, hearing that stuff. Are there any skills that kind of jump out to you that you might think fit the kind of Grease the Groove cycle?
Oh yeah, I definitely need to work on my presses. So,
that's awesome.
Something that I could do. And that was kind of my next question was like the weight I should use. So definitely not my max weight, just a comfortable weight.
Yeah, I always operate under the sort of still stick to good training principles and programming principles. And so the Grease the Groove stuff is really just another workout that you can program in the same way that we do for y'all here at the gym. And so just some couple of pieces of that is like, when it shakes out at the end of the day, if we measured every one of your reps relative to your 1 rep max and really did all that stuff, in a perfect world of all of the lifts you do over the course of the training cycle, it averages out to we're at 80% the whole time. So it might be you do 95% a little bit, you might do 60% a little bit, you're mostly around 80%. So I think what a good approach is, let's say your overhead press 1 rep max is the 20 kilo, let's just say. I would offer up like week 1, and let's say you do it 2 days a week, you're doing 70%, week 2, it's 75% of that, week 3, it's 80%, week 4, it's 85%, week 5, 90%. Mm-hmm. And then at that point, you can retest, hey, maybe I'm at the 24 kilo now, and you can recycle that. So start it off where I always like to think it's like I have 3 reps in the tank at the end. That's another way to do it is like, if you don't know the percentages, kettlebells obviously have 4 kilo jumps, so it's sometimes 2. So it's kind of hard to be exact on those percentages. So if you can hit the 12 for 5, or you can hit the 12 for 8, you only do 5.
Yeah.
And that's most 5 perfect reps that you could do. And you stack up 6 sets throughout the day. Oh my God, that's a ton of volume. And then following week, maybe you have to add reps because you don't have a 16. And then all of a sudden you're at 10 reps and that feels like 5. You still could do 13. And that's another way of seeing progression is either the weight goes up at the same reps or the reps go up at the same weight. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I'll use this analogy too that helped me a lot to simplify it. Is the point of Grease the Groove is to use a bowling analogy, is to kind of hit a strike every time. And so if you can put the bumpers so you get no gutter balls, Dan John says this in a great way as well with his easy strength, which is like the goal is to never miss a rep.
Yeah.
And so to that point, we can take that a step further by saying, what is missing a rep? It might be not getting it up, or it might be not being within the kind of dimensions of really strict technical form. And I would use both of those to guide and instruct the weight or reps that you use. So to Matt's point, if you can do 5, but the 5th one looks like this, that is not in the purpose of Grease the Groove, right?
Well, that's also like a 5 rep max weight rather than an 8 rep max weight, but you only do 5.
Right. So it's kind of same destination, different journeys to the goal. I am always of the ilk that overcomplicating things leads to a lack of want to do the thing. And with Grease the Groove, it should feel almost too easy in a way. Like that is the point, because you're already doing 3 guided, pretty hard, more intense programming models that we are curating for you. So the more you can just have it be a simple, the other way I always love to think about it is like a punch the clock workout where I just get in, get out. And at the end of it, I'm like, that was a day of work, but it wasn't like I'm crushed, or it wasn't like I did nothing. It's like that middle path.
And also I just ordered a adjustable kettlebell, so I'll test that out over the next couple of weeks. And it's expensive, but it goes from 12 kilos to 40 kilos. And it goes up by like 1/4 kilo bits. So you can really, I'll let you know if it's any good. And
dial in.
Then you can, that is the reason why I'm excited about it, is precisely for this conversation, is like, I can Grease the Groove with that thing forever, basically. And I can be super methodical with the weight adjustments. So
I would just add to a really unique opportunity that you both have because of the work that you've done is you have a very good internal sense of what is a good rep and what is not a good rep. And obviously that will continue to morph and change individually based on your set expectations for yourself. And I think you can externalize it to the point that Matt and I make a lot, is like, what is the standard? And if the rep ever falls below the standard, that is not an area that we want you to be working on solo, right? If the rep falls a little out of standard, but you have, 2 people who know a little bit more about how to get it back to standard, cool. But for at-home stuff, it's like, think about that technical proficiency as the biggest thing you're trying to get from the workout, because it's not a workout. It's really, you'll feel it. Like doing 3 reps on the hour, it's not going to get you sweating. It's not going to make you feel beat up. Like you're not going to have any workout indicators, but it is training in a really fun way. So I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm definitely going to try it.
Yeah. And I think that's the fun thing about programming, is that programming is a tool, right? Yeah. And it's just learning how to apply that tool. And it's also learning if that tool is right for you right now. And like, to the point of like, I did the Grease the Groove for a while and I haven't really done it since. But if I wanted to do it again, I have access to it. And at the very least, the experience of doing the program will allow you to see, is this in line with what I want? Or is it something that I can just say, not for me? That's fine.
Yeah, I think when it comes to programming stuff, I like this quote a lot, the best program is the one that you do.
Yep.
And right now, for Sean and I, with our life right now, we're obviously working at a gym, and we finish our workday and then we get our lifts in 4 probably days a week, maybe 5 sometimes, and we're able to do that. But I know that looking at our schedules over the coming year, when we get really busy,
it's going to change.
Yeah. That's going to change. Grease the Groove is going to be something that I'm probably going to have to implement.
Yeah.
And there's various sophisticated things that we just happen to know because we spent the time studying it, of like how to get really nitty gritty with it. But like that general concept
Yes.
will allow us to maintain and continue to grow without being like, hey, I don't have an extra hour to sit in the gym after we're done with work. I have to get home. I have to go do these other things.
Yeah.
But before I leave to get to the gym, I'll hit some Grease to Groove. Every session that we do on the hour, I'll hit the Grease to Groove.
Yeah.
When I get home, I'll hit the Grease to Groove. Oh, I've done 10 sets of 5s. That's my workout.
Yeah. And I think that's ultimately where I see the greatest benefit of Grease the Groove, is that it is a tool you can have in your back pocket to continue training when life is suboptimal. Like that's the way Karen from Strong First talked about it. She's like, on my travel days, am I going to put the expectation on myself to go and do a 2-hour kettlebell sequence? Probably not. But can I do in the airport, again, the airport analogy is so funny to me, but like a 1-arm, 1-leg push-up and just continue to hone that practice. That's how I use it. Or I'm talking in terms of her. And that was when it clicked. It was like, that's what it is. It's a bailout plan. It's a plan B to your plan A, to your plan C, to your plan D, of just saying, if I have a non-negotiable of, say, 4 training sessions a week, 3 of them I know are going to be at the studio, and then 1 I can just slot in wherever I can. And that gets me to the ultimate goal, to Matt's point, of getting the volume, which matters for skill acquisition, I think, more than anything, really. Just reps underneath the load, right? Yeah.
All right, Roy.
Yes.
Yeah.
We got on our soapbox right there about Grease the Groove.
No, well, I asked, so.
Yeah. It was prompted.
Yeah. No, I'm glad. I hope that's helpful and gives a fairly thorough explanation of how to utilize that tool in the toolbox.
Definitely. Yeah, I think next week is a good week to sort of try it.
Yes.
Correct.
That's very, very
I'll be doing our normal workout, so.
Yeah, that's I know, just to that point, just bringing it up, that if we're talking about Hamlet for in the future, like I know when I'm going to be super busy with that, I'm going to need to do more mobility stuff. And there's like, I can't be, just for various reasons, I can't be focusing on my hypertrophy program that I'm on right now and trying to have big biceps or a big chest or whatever. But doing a lot of mobility stuff was a good, it's a good opportunity to do that, but still wanting to maintain the strength. And it's like, I can hit my mobility for the hour and then maintain the strength with Grease the Groove.
Yep. All right, Roy, over to you. No pressure.
What do you guys think for me would be the thing to do on the Grease the Groove?
Good question. I think there's a couple options a couple of questions you can consider that might get yourself to the answer, and then we can offer advice too. I think the question I would initially ask is like, what movement pattern do you want to get back? You have horizontal press, horizontal pull, vertical press, vertical pull, squat, and hinge. And technically there's the 7th, which is the carry.
Yeah.
But carries that's a workout. But obviously right now we're not doing horizontal press and pull, as I mentioned. So maybe horizontal press, like working on the push-ups. That was something, for example, my wife Caroline did in preparation for the wedding. She was like, push-ups are really useful. So she did Grease the Groove. She started at 5 push-ups. She was like, I have to get 10 sets done throughout the day. And she started at 5s. And then eventually she got to a point where she could do 5 sets of 10. And she did that for a long time. And that was really, really helpful. So that might be one question and consideration there.
Yeah.
And then alternatively, if overhead pressing is something like with the kettlebell that you think which I might be kind of pushing you towards, is really useful for the overhead press work we're doing now,
to get
coupled with the snatch technique, that might be a worthwhile option. And Sean just mentioned the get up. That might be another one, because then you can like skill refinement.
Yeah.
And so those might be my 3 sort of initial offerings. And then, take those questions of how I got to those offerings of like, maybe it is horizontal pulls, or maybe it is squats, or, to work on positioning, anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that's the good way to think about it, is we can give you an answer, but I think the greater advancement of the understanding comes from you identifying what is somewhat of a perceived weakness for me, and then how can I kind of orient my training to make up for that. And so we gave you a lot of stuff. I think the other thing that's intangible in this is if you hate doing get-ups, probably don't do them every hour on the hour, or maybe that's good for you. I don't know, So it's like to Matt's earlier point, like the best program is the one that you do. So especially when you're trying something new, I think it's beneficial to set yourself up for something that you want to do and then evolve to the point where you have the habit that you can say, now I can kind of convince myself to sit in the seat of doing something I don't want to do. The other thing too, I think, which is good, is Grease the Groove is still very reduced in its overall wear and tear on the body. But I would say if you're finding that it's hard to recover in upper body after press days or snatch days, like maybe don't add another day of that just to continue to beat yourself to shit, because that's non-productive anyway. And I know you've said like, hey, recovery has felt a little lagged sometimes between day to day. So to Matt's point, which is great, sometimes I think it's really refreshing for the body to do a whole different pattern of movement, just for the mental clarity of it, of not having to continue to beat your head into the wall. But also, I have found in my life that when I'm doing a lot of vertical pressing, what makes me feel better is horizontal pressing or rowing. Like just to not only work out the imbalances, but also just the mechanics of it are very kind of self-healing in a way to a point.
Yeah, I'd also, now that we've been talking about it and I'm thinking about it a little more, I think that there's probably not enough. You can't do enough. One cannot do enough horizontal rowing.
Yeah, it's the best.
Like more, like getting a stronger back makes everything better. Like, yeah, we've been.
So would that need like a rowing machine?
No, so we
do with a kettlebell.
Different ways of setting up a horizontal row with a single weight. We can show you that next time you're here, even. But that might even be where I would offer up is like, hey, just hit some horizontal rows, because I know for me I've been just making sure that I do horizontal rowing at least twice a week, and then we've all been doing this low back training. Like, that is making a massive difference, and it's that one. Yeah, you kind of can't do enough of that.
And being productive too, I think, in the way that you approach the same problem from different angles. So if you've noticed, hey, for instance, in my press, I'm constantly working from this shrug position. How is that horizontal position just going to help you have a better framework for setting the lab, setting the platform from a completely different approach that your body might be able to be like, okay, now I can use this contextual understanding to translate to this other move. But yeah, horizontal rowing it feels good. It's fantastic. And to Matt's point, like the best gains that I've made is when I really dedicate myself to making my back stronger. Right.
I keep relearning that lesson. I've relearned that lesson a million times since I started lifting seriously in high school. Like, best thing I did in high school was I was just like, had bad posture, and I was just like, band pull aparts. Every workout, no matter what it was, is I did 3 sets of 15. Yeah. I just did that. And that made a massive difference. Yeah. And like that is a great tool actually for Grease the Groove, because it's just like you can literally keep it in your pocket.
Bent over rows, band pull aparts, like any of those things. And that's where I would say for both of you, like identify what you want to work on and then use us as understanders of the different things you can use to hyper focus on what you should use, right? I think that's a better way to kind of hone it down, to have your responsibility to understand what needs to be worked and then ask the question more specifically of how to get to that goal. Yeah. All right. Well, cool. We have 5 minutes left. Any rapid fire questions?
I like the armbar.
Nice.
The armbar was freaky,
Armbar
is
freaky fun,
That's actually, to this conversation of Grease the Groove, that's another good opportunity of like mobility stuff. When you have the like best bang for your buck ones, like armbar is one of those where it's just like you get so much out of it. And
Turkish get-up's another one.
Turkish get-up's another one. Like 90-90s, for example, are a great exercise, but it's not as useful for Grease the Groove, because it's like you need a fair amount of volume of that to open up the hips and then get deeper into it, and like so on and so forth. But the armbar, like I do that most workouts. Like no matter what I'm doing, it just feels good. It keeps my shoulders healthy, like keeps my mobility good. That's one that's actually great.
Windmills are dope.
Windmills are awesome. Like especially if you're trying to. If you're in a program right now where you're getting enough on the strength side of things, that you need more of the mobility side of things, something like that where you don't need a big warm up. Like Eldoas are awesome, but you kind of need to warm up for those. Like Hails and rails, which you'll learn next week, are awesome, but you need warm-ups for those.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
not necessarily the best tool for that system.
That might be actually, now that I'm thinking for both of you, like the press from the armbar, like that's an example of something that you could do grease the groove with. And how much better by proxy does that make the Turkish get up, your overhead position, your understanding of connection to the lat? Like that's I think, again, grease the groove for me, like the handstand push-up for me was something that was, specific, but encompassed a lot of different pieces that I just didn't want to have to think about it in a short amount of time. So that's another fun way to kind of get a better understanding of what application might fit within that tool. Something that moves the needle forward in a really immense way of mobility, strength, flexibility, intersection of all of those pieces.
You got three more. Anything else?
Yeah, that was a really, back on that, it's just a really interesting move because it was so subtle, but at the same time, my shoulders felt really different after we did it.
Yeah. And it's self-limiting. I think that's another cool thing that sometimes, to go back to the bumper analogy, like you're probably never going to be loading up a 24 kilo bell in your arm bar, right?
I did a strong first event where a guy was bragging about how he worked up to being able to do a 32 kilo arm bar. And we're all like, who cares?
Why?
Like,
why?
What does that do for you?
Yeah.
Like, what a obnoxious story. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure, bro.
Yeah. I was assistant instructing, and me and the main instructor were like, we talk afterwards, like, what the fuck? Like, who? Like,
weird flex, but okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And this guy was offering up that story, like, this was really good. You should all do that. It's like, what a way. Like, that is a good example of like wasting time
and not understanding the tool.
Yeah, not understanding the tool and just like wasting time and effort, because it's like, hey, maybe all that time that you spent working towards a 32 kilo arm bar could have been spent working on an actual overhead press or an actual bench press, let's say, which has a lot more carryover. Like, you need to have healthy shoulders. You need to have a much better sense of how your whole body functions to do a good overhead press or a good bench press.
Yeah.
And all that energy that could have been spent on that stuff was spent on this sort of accessory exercise that's not like, okay, I'm really strong in this side press. How does it translate to properly setting up here? Like, not as effective, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good for acrobats.
Yeah,
right.
Maybe.
Right. Yeah, maybe even. Yeah. At that point, I'd just be like, dude, just do acrobatics. Like,
He was on his way to Cirque du Soleil.
Right. Right.
Yeah, he had a lot of other issues, but
of course, yeah. But my shoulder stability is awesome.
Yeah, I can fine. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I hope that I think that that's a really good idea, again, of next week when we shift the focus a little bit away from what the focus has been to a different modality. Like, how can you, again, I love this quote, like the truest test of genius and intelligence is being able to hold two contrasting ideas in one's head at once, right? It's like, how can that small digestible act of strength training through the week mix with the mobility and vice versa and get you to that point that, we're such believers in where everything feeds into itself, and it's not one tool is better than the other. It's how do they feed into each other to make your goals more achievable in a more realistic framework.
Yeah. And thanks for bringing this forward. I think we'll talk about this in class next week. I think this is a good prompting for everybody else to hear too.
Yeah. This is the perfect example of like, how do I add more without overwhelming myself? Like, how do I add more strength work through the week without completely destroying my recovery, which I know we've talked about, and setting myself up to under recovered, or to the point of the 32 kilo arm bar, like do something that's going to detract from the ultimate goal, which you got to keep the goal of the goal is another Dan John aphorism that we love. So, well, awesome, me too. Well, thank you again for being on here, and have a wonderful weekend. Do a little bit more meditation on what groove you would like to grease, and then get excited for next week. I think that's going to be really cool, and I hope you both just feel in a position to really take advantage of some of the stuff next week. And like we've told everybody, like, come all 5 days. I dare you. I double dog dare you. After the you're gonna be like, I only want to come back one time, but it'll be fun.
All right. Have a good weekend, everybody.
All right, you
Good weekend.
See you soon.